My dear friends, I hope this finds you well. I've been listening recently to a lot of revisionist history, a great podcast by Malcom Gladwell. And there was one particular episode that stood out for me. It was called Chutzpah versus Chutzpah. In it, he explored the difference between chutzpah, in the Yiddish sense, the Yiddish explanation, Yiddish pronunciation, and chutzpah, in the Hebrew pronunciation, and the difference between them. What's the difference between these? To illustrate the difference, he tells the story first of a man named Al Ruddy. Al Ruddy was a Jewish computer software engineer who, and him and his friend got this idea for a TV show, a comedy about a Nazi prisoner of war camp. And they wrote the whole thing up, and somehow they're able to get an audience in front of Bill Paley at CBS, who's also Jewish. And they tell him the premise, and he says, I find the idea of doing a comedy show about a Nazi prisoner of war camp completely reprehensible. Sorry, not interested. In just a moment of chutzpah, Al Ruddy stands up and he acts out the scene from this show. And he has Bill Paley and these other TV execs rolling on the floor in laughter. And they buy it right there. They buy the show at that moment. And that show, of course, is Hogan's Heroes, a very successful TV show. And Al Ruddy goes on to have a very successful career in TV and movies. That's chutzpah. That's audacity, right? You stand up. You have no right to be there. They had no right to be there. He didn't know what he was doing, but he did it anyway, and he was successful. Chutzpah. What's chutzpah? Chutzpah. And there's a great scene in the podcast where Gladwell's trying to learn how to pronounce them. This his Israeli neighbor is trying to teach him how to pronounce the two words. Chutzpah. He tells the story of a guy named Joe Colombo, an Italian mob boss who started a civil rights league for the advocacy on behalf of Italian Americans who he felt were wrongly portrayed as mobsters in TV and movies, and he wanted to change that. He wanted to change the way in which Italian Americans were being portrayed as mobsters. An Italian mobster starting a civil rights league in order to, change the portrayal of Italian Americans as mobsters and using violence and other nefarious things in order to get one's way, that's chutzpah. That's brazen, that's lowly, right? That's not a good thing. And Gladwell beautifully brings together their two stories to illustrate the difference between these two approaches. Towards the end of the podcast, he mentions Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu, of course, in that great moment where he is arguing with Hashem, and Hashem tells him he's gonna destroy Sodom and Amorah. And Avram says, but what if there's 50 righteous people? Don't destroy it for 50 righteous. And he says, fine. God says, fine. If there's 50 righteous people, I won't destroy it. All right, 40, 30, they would go back and forth. And finally, Avram says, if there's 10 people, Hashem says, if there's 10 righteous people, I will not destroy it. Unfortunately, there isn't. But this is this great moment of chutzpah, of Avram having the chutzpah to talk to God, to talk to Hashem and argue with Hashem. That is chutzpah in the holiest sense. In the holiest sense. Gladwell brings up, he says that people in Israel, they learn from Avraham Avinu. Israel is what he calls a low power distance culture, meaning people don't have very much respect for people in places of authority, as opposed to France and other countries, which he mentions. Israel is a low power distance culture. Why is that? Why do Israelis have so much chutzpah and chutzpah? Why is that? Right? Because they say, okay, who are you? You're not so high up. I'm a son of God as well, right? We're all connected to Hashem, and maybe that brings, I think it's deep down, we know that, and maybe that brings us to a third type of chutzpah, what we call holy chutzpah. Holy chutzpah. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov talks about this idea of azut de kedusha, brazenness of holiness. What does that mean? What does that mean? It doesn't mean, and I learned from a dear friend of mine, Reb Ami Silver, who has a great podcast himself that I'll post down below as well. It doesn't mean, I'm going to do whatever it takes in order to perform a mitzvah. Sometimes people think that's what holy chutzpah is. Holy chutzpah is this idea that, you know what? Even if I've fallen short in the past, even if I've messed up in the past, nonetheless, I still have the holy chutzpah to stand up and say, Hashem, I still want to be close to you. I still want a relationship with you. Even, it doesn't matter what I've done in the past. I've got that chutzpah in this moment now to stand up. to stand up and to draw close to you. We're reading of the building of the Mishkan this week in Parshat Truma. Hashem says, "V'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham." Make for me a sanctified place, and I will dwell within you, not within the building. Holy chutzpah is the knowledge that Hashem dwells within us. And the ability, even if we've messed up, to say, you know what, Hashem, I can have a relationship with you. I can be close to you. I can draw close to you. That is holy chutzpah. That's holy chutzpah. So I want to bless everyone with the ability to know the difference between chutzpah and chutzpah. Not to be chutzpan, not to be chatzuf, but also to have that holy chutzpah, to believe in ourselves and our ability to draw close to Hashem. No matter what's happened, it's a new moment, a month of Adar, a new day. Let's draw close and draw others close to us and to Hashem while we're at it. Shabbat Shalom.